Please be aware that the comments, views, opinions shared on this podcast are not meant to diagnose a medical problem and/or legal problem. If you do have a medical problem or legal problem, kindly contact a professional.
Welcome to An Apple a Day, a podcast, a resource, a community. Share your experiences and learn from others as we overcome barriers and learn to live a happy, healthy life with a disability. Welcome to the community. Here's your host, Jimmy Apple.
Welcome to another episode of An Apple a Day. I'm your host, Jimmy Apple. An Apple a Day is brought to you by www.famousapple.com. Famousapple.com is the home site for this podcast, and there you're going to find articles about the topics we discuss. You're going to find access to our free message boards. You're going to find access to our free chat rooms. You're going to find access to our Facebook pages. There's a lot going on over there. You're going to find articles about the podcast itself. You're going to find ways to contact us. You're going to find ways to join in on our free, absolutely free newsletter. So you get a minute, go over there, check it out. It's worth the visit. How you doing today, my friends? You feeling good? Feeling strong? Doing everything you're supposed to be doing? I hope so. I hope you're feeling better than you did yesterday. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? Hey, we got a good one for you today. We got a couple of letters here from listeners, and I'd like to share them with you. And actually, we're going to do that right now because this first one actually bothers me a little bit, because if anyone that has listened to this podcast for any length of time knows how I feel about disability, knows how I feel about those who scam. I hate scammers. I hate people that try to take advantage of the system. I hate people that try to jump ahead of people who actually need disability, that actually need the Social Security system to get along, to get through life. These people, I think it's some kind of pocket money or pocket change or, I don't know, free money. It annoys me. It annoys me to no end, to the point that it puts a knot in my stomach when I hear about it, when people brag about it. Yes, and I mean brag about it. They actually do. They'll tell you how, they're making money and they're working under the table, but you know what? They're telling the wrong person when they tell me. Honest to God, you're telling the wrong person, because I know too many people that have to jump through hoops to get disability payments, to get disability coverage, because they actually need it. That's right, they need it. They need it to support their family. They need it to take care of themselves medically, physically, mentally. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to make little of this. You're going to act like it's nothing. Well, maybe to you it's nothing. But to the people that need disability, that need the Social Security disability system, the payments that disability makes to them to survive, that's insulting. That's more than insulting. It's worse than insulting. And that's where this next letter comes in. This just twisted me. And I read it a couple of times to see, maybe because I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I don't like to just jump on something without really looking into it. But here's the letter I get. This one here is from Brian from Washington State. And his question to me is, Jimmy Apple, well, I listened to your show and I want to ask you a question. What should I do and what should I not do in order to stay on disability? Now, how would you take that? I mean, what should you do or not do? Well, what you should do is actually need it. I mean, if you need disability, then you should be on it. What does your doctor tell you? If you're asking me, should you go out and go skydiving? What do you want me to tell you? I think just by the question alone, and I may be 100% wrong, I may be 200% wrong, but just by that question alone, if you're receiving disability benefits, if you're receiving Social Security benefits, I think you're a thief. What should you do and what shouldn't you do? What do you mean, what shouldn't you do? I get those questions quite a bit. You know, should I go out without my cane? Well, if you can go out without your cane, go out without your cane. What are you asking me for? Did you ask your doctor? What are you afraid of? I got one. I got one time that tells me, well, I don't want to go out without my cane in case somebody sees me. Well, here's a thought. Do you need your cane to walk? Do you need your cane to go up and down stairs? Then that's why you bring your cane with you. Not because if somebody sees you or not. That's being a liar. If you don't need a cane, why the hell are you carrying one? To make people feel bad for you? Or are you trying to scam the disability? You're trying to scam the insurance companies. See, I have no use for a thief or a scammer. I have very little use for a thief or a scammer. And I have zero use for a liar. I would rather deal with a murderer than to deal with a liar. Simple reason is, with a murderer, I know what I have. I know in front of me stands a scumbag murderer. With a liar, you don't know who you have or what you have. They could be smiling in your face and telling you everything you want to hear. In the meantime, at the same time, they could be sticking a knife in your back. So, if you ask me, a liar is 3 steps below a murderer. I have no use for a liar. I have no use for a scammer. And a scammer is a liar. And a liar is a scammer, in my book. So, Brian, do whatever you got to do. Me personally, if I knew where you were, I'd report you. Okay? And that just reminds me, if you know somebody that's scamming, if you know somebody that is scamming the system, that's taking money and using the system when they don't have to, report them. Report them. You're not being a rat. You're not being a 5-0. You're not being anything like that. You're doing a favor for all the people that actually need this. You're doing a favor for the people that actually need Social Security disability. You're doing a favor for all the disabled people. Don't let somebody act like they're disabled. They're insulting you. They're insulting you. If you're disabled, you're receiving Social Security disability, and you know Joe Blow next to you is like lying about it and getting the same benefits, and out there just throwing it in your face saying he really doesn't need it, but he's getting it anyway. He's putting the money in his pocket, maybe working under the table or doing something like that. Report this guy. Report him. All you got to do is call up your local Social Security office. Report him. Go on www.ssa.gov. Report him. Anyone you know that's scamming, report them. I have no use, zero use for any kind of scammers. You're going to scam, and that's a crime. Do you know that's a crime? Let's move on here. I'm giving myself a heart attack in the first 6 minutes of this. Anyhow, I got to do a little meditation here for a second. Hey, our next letter comes from Teresa in Brooklyn. Now, she's writing for her brother. Her brother works in a warehouse, and he's a severe diabetic, and he just got suspended from work because he was eating on the job, and it wasn't lunchtime and it wasn't his break time. The kid told his supervisor that he has to eat because he's diabetic. The supervisor told him he can only eat during his break. He can only eat during lunch. He can't eat while he's on the line. And the sister feels like he got suspended wrongly. Okay, I got to ask a couple of questions here, though. Number one, did your brother bring a letter in from the doctor explaining he's a diabetic and he has a strict eating regimen that he has to stick to? Most people don't realize it. If you're not a diabetic, you don't realize that you have to eat these smaller meals during the day, especially if you're a bad diabetic. You also have to excuse yourself to inject the insulin, and that's kind of rough when you're working on a line in a factory. The other thing, if they do know it and he has submitted a note from a doctor and the supervisor continues to give him a problem and suspended him even though he has submitted all this, there's two things he can do with that too. He can go to the labor board here in New York. They do have a labor board. You can go to the labor board and file a complaint, but you can also file a complaint with the ADA, the American Disability Act. And they can look into it for you because diabetes is on the list of covered disabilities for the ADA. And to file a complaint with the ADA, it's very simple. All you have to do is go to www.ada, that's A as in Apple, D as in David, A as in Apple, .gov/filing, FILING, _ complaint COMPLAINT.HTM. Go there and file your complaint. It's that simple. And they'll take it from there. But no, that they do have to give you that time to go to eat your snack. Now maybe he can't eat his snack at his workstation, which is understandable. I can understand that. And he may have to take 5 minutes off his time. I can understand that too. The employer may not have to pay him for the 5-10 minutes that he has to take to eat his snack. And that's understandable too. So maybe he'll have to go to a lunchroom or a locker room or whatever it is. But they do have to accommodate him. That I can tell you. So that was very nice of you, Teresa, to write in about that. I'm glad that you're listening to it. I'm glad that you cared enough about your brother to ask about it. I hope your brother's listening to this as well. And write in again. Let me know what happens with that. Just bring it up to the supervisor. You don't have to be he doesn't have to be confrontational when he does it. Just bring it up and explain it to him nicely. But make sure that there is a note from the doctor. If he doesn't have one, just ask your doctor to give you a note that you can bring to him and explain like a normal human being. You don't have to go in and be all big, bad, and tough. Just go in and explain. Say, look, I'm a diabetic, and this is why I was eating, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to violate the rules. Sometimes you catch more flies with sugar than you do with vinegar. But just go in and be humble about it and just apologize. Say, I didn't know that I was violating the rules. This is why I did it. I didn't do it intentionally just to be insubordinate or anything like that, but this is why I did it. So let me know what happens with that, Teresa, okay? All right. Just one more thing before we move on. I just want to put my 2 cents in on one more thing with companies. Companies make accommodations for smokers. They give them time to go out and smoke a cigarette during the day. And they make accommodations for alcoholics and junkies so that they can go to their AA and NA meetings. So they can very well make accommodations for someone that's working with diabetes. Don't you think? That's just my 2 cents. Okay, look, let's move on here. Well, you know what? We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in 30 seconds, okay? On the other side, we're going to be talking about discrimination against people with disabilities. That's right. People say it doesn't exist. Yeah, I beg to differ. And anyone who's disabled knows what I'm talking about. All right, I'll see you on the other side. 30 seconds. Yeah, shake of a lamb's tail. I'll see you in a few. An Apple a Day is brought to you by www.famousapple.com. Famousapple.com is the home site for this podcast. There you're going to find articles about the topics we discussed. You're going to find our connections to our Facebook page. And you're even going to find connections to our private chat board. So take a minute, go over, visit www.famousapple.com. But please wait till the end of this podcast. Don't run out on me now. Let's get back to the discussion. And we're back. Try to tell me you didn't miss me. That was probably the longest 30 seconds you ever had to live through, right? Because you weren't talking to me. All right, truth be told, I missed you. Okay, don't say you didn't miss me, though, because you're a liar. Anyhow, let's get back to this. I have a question for you. Who do you think is the most discriminated against people right now in society? Do you think it's people who get discriminated against because of their ethnic background? Do you think it's people who get discriminated against because of their sexual orientation? Do you think it's people who get discriminated against because of their income level? Me personally, and this is my personal belief, I believed people who get discriminated against the most are the disabled in our society. And you're probably going, yeah, okay, right. But if you're disabled, you know what I'm talking about. It happens every day. All you have to do is go to Google or Yahoo or Bing or any of the search engines and just look up discrimination against disabled people and look at how many replies come back. There's thousands, literally thousands of replies that come back about discrimination against people with disabilities. Now, I did that, and I came across this article that was in the Huffington Post a while back, and it was also on Mobility Today. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. I took the highlights out. And it was 6 ways that people discriminate against disabled people. And it's very true. It's very true. It's written by a girl who was actually in a wheelchair, but I've spoke to people who are using walkers who find that they get discriminated against. I spoke to people who are missing limbs who find they get discriminated against, people who are using canes, even people who have had heart attacks that, they're not able to walk as fast or as far as other people, that get discriminated against, people with asthma, people that have eczema, psoriasis, burns, they've been burnt in a fire. They get discriminated against. And it's ignorance. That's all it is. Discrimination is always ignorance on the part of the people who are doing the discriminating, the prejudice, But it seems to be freewheeling in our society, in that it's allowed to go on and nobody really does anything about it. And I found this article very interesting. And like I said, I'm just going to touch on the highlights. She says one of the places that she feels discriminated against is in grocery stores. She goes into a grocery store and the employees think that we're stupid. She says 5 out of 10 times, store employees assume that we are ill-equipped mentally because of obvious physical disabilities. Example, she was saying that she was with an able-bodied friend, and she's online waiting to pay for her groceries. And the cashier, now this girl's in a wheelchair, like I said, the cashier turns to her able-bodied friend and ignoring her altogether and saying to the able-bodied friend, do you want paper or plastic? And the able-bodied friend is turning to the girl in the wheelchair and saying, do you want paper or plastic? And you would think that the cashier would get the idea. And she doesn't. The girl in the wheelchair says, well, I'll take plastic. It's easier with the handles. And the cashier then turns around to the able-bodied friend again and says, will this be cash or credit? Wow. I mean, she's as if the girl in the wheelchair is not there. And I tell you the truth, I've felt that way myself. I've felt that way. I mean, even going out with my wife, we go out to dinner and they'll come with the check to the table. This is how embarrassing this can be. They'll come to the table with the check and they'll actually hand it to my wife because I'm there in a wheelchair. This is what I believe. Now, at first, my wife says, no, you're imagining things, whatever. So we've done it again. And even she has to say, she says, I think you're right. Because no matter where we've gone to Outback, we've gone to Perkins, the restaurant, we've gone to Texas Longhorn. Yeah, they come, they give the check to my wife. It's just like they don't look at me when we're there. They just look past me and see my wife, like she's taking me out for an outing or something. Another thing is trying to catch a taxi. Now, if you're in a big metropolis like New York City, trying to catch a taxi is hard enough. But be in a wheelchair or be with a walker or be on crutches, taxis do not want to stop for you. They figure you're a nuisance. They figure it's extra work that they don't want to have to deal with. Now, I'll tell you this, back in the 70s, I was growing up I was an adult. I was a young adult in the 70s, and I drove a private car. I drove for a private car service for a while I was in school. And the guys I drove with on the weekends, they despised picking up grocery stores. They would rather get it run going out to JFK or to LaGuardia Airport instead of picking up the old ladies at the grocery stores. For 2 reasons. One, it was a pain in the butt. You'd have to get out of the car, you'd have to put the groceries in the trunk, and then when you got to the place, you'd have to take the groceries out of the trunk and put them on the front steps for the old lady. A lot of times when I did it, I just brought it right up into their front door and set them inside their front door for them. But a lot of the guys are like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. And they tell the old ladies, I have a bad leg, I have a bad back, I can't help you, da-da-da-da-da. And they'd say, you ain't get no tips. Now, back then, what we used to call a local call was a call that would go around the neighborhood. They were 75 cents. And a lot of times, the old ladies at the grocery store, they'd give you a quarter tip. It was like getting $1 tip today. But they didn't want that. They wanted to go to Kennedy Airport and get a $5 tip. But what they didn't realize is They're going to Kennedy Airport, and they're going to get their $5 tip, but they're also wasting an hour going out there and an hour coming back with traffic and everything. Me, I would rather take the old ladies home and get the quarter tip, because in the 2 hours that they're getting their $5 tip out of Kennedy Airport, I can run 30 or 40 of these Grand Union calls to run the ladies back and forth from the grocery store. But that's what happens. You try to hail a yellow cab in Manhattan, and these people look at you like you are a big problem, especially in a wheelchair, because they figure now they're going to have to stop the car, open the trunk, get the wheelchair in the trunk. Let me tell you something. Most people in a wheelchair that are in Manhattan, that are hailing a cab, they can get in and out of the car quicker probably than the driver can, who's been sitting there for 10 hours. Yeah, the person that's in the wheelchair, if he's running around Manhattan or she's running around Manhattan, guaranteed she can get in or he can get in and out of that wheelchair just like anybody else can. That's a fallacy, but it's just they don't want to be bothered, so they make like they can't see you, like you don't exist. So they go right by you. Steps. Steps in public places. That's another thing where they just act like handicapped people don't exist. Despite the misguided thoughts that buildings are grandfathered in to the ADA and do not have to be accessible to the handicap, they actually do. Doesn't matter how old the building is. They do have to be accessible to the handicap. Any public space must be accessible to handicapped people, according to the ADA. Now, here's another one. Wheelchair quotas. Yes, that really does exist. Concert venues, airports, airplanes, city buses, amusement park rides even. There's quotas on how many wheelchairs are allowed in certain places, and that's a reality. Can you imagine? They say it's for safety. Okay, you can almost understand that to a degree, but what about working on that, making it safer to have more? There's certain concert venues that can seat thousands and thousands of people, but only have areas that can accommodate 6 wheelchairs. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? Or city buses that can only accommodate 2 wheelchairs at a time. And then again, you run into the same problem at times, especially in New York. It's happened with people. You see the old woman or the old man at the bus stop with a walker, and the bus will pass him right by. You know why? Because it's rush hour, and they don't want to lower the bus down so that the person with the walker can get on, and then they have to find a spot that they can stand safely and then drive off. The person with the walker has places to be also. But they just figure, well, they're disabled. We'll just pass them by. They can wait. That's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I want to tell you this. I went to my nephew's graduation in Poughkeepsie, New York. And we told them right from the beginning that I was in a wheelchair. And they said, okay, we'll give you tickets to this wheelchair accessible area. The wheelchair accessible area was pushed off to the side, kind of like by the stage entrance for the restrooms and the garbage. It was insulting. And impossible really to see the stage. You could see them going up on stage, but that was about it. And again, it's like, don't worry about it. Now, if you did that to someone else, if you took, and I'm just picking out anybody, if you took an ethnic person, a person of color, and said, oh yeah, all right, well, we're having the graduation, but you have to sit over there. Whoa, the NAACP, everybody would be involved. They converge on that place. But it's a disabled person, so they're not worth as much. And see, that's the problem, I think. People look at us and think we're not worth as much for some reason. We're not as valuable as a regular customer. Now, another thing that this just twists me, and we've spoke about this before, is our parking spaces, the disabled parking spots. People think because you have a disabled parking permit, it's a privilege. It's not a privilege. It's a necessity that you have it. It's an absolute necessity. You're no different than anybody else on the block. You need to go to the store to get food. Nobody's bringing it to you. And they say, well, you can have it delivered. Well, we're on fixed incomes too. So are you giving us the extra money that the delivery is going to cost us? So we have to make ends meet. So we do have to go to the store. The last thing I want to do is go to a store and wait online. Just like anybody else. Nobody else wants to go to the store and wait online either, but we have to. We can't just snap our fingers and say, poof, I want the food delivered here. So we have to. I can tell you this story that was told to me, and it was a fella that was using a walker, and he had neuropathy in both feet and bad hips. So what he would do is he would use his walker to get from his car to the inside of the door, to get one of those scooters, drive back to the car, put the walker in the car, drive back into the store and go shopping. And then he'd drive back out to the car to get his walker, then drive back in, put the scooter back and walk back to his car and then go about his day. Well, this one time he was at Walmart in Mount Pocono in Pennsylvania. So he pulls in and he pulls into a van spot where you have the big spot next to you so you can get in and get out. And he gets out with his walker and he walks into the store. He gets one of those go-karts. He drives back out, puts the walker back in his car, drives into Walmart, does his food shopping, comes out, puts the packages in his trunk, gets his walker, drives back in to put the wagon back in, plugs it in for the next person, comes out, and in the meantime, while all this is going on, he pulls out some moron, pulls in and parks on the blue box, the box for the in-between handicapped parking spots, parks there where you're not supposed to park at all. Handicapped or not, you're not supposed to park here. That's a van unloading, so you can put ramps down or what have you. So now this guy's stuck. He can't get into his car. So he waits and waits and waits till he can't wait anymore. He goes back in the store. He gets back onto a scooter, drives over to the customer service area, lets the customer service area know that he's stuck because somebody parked in the blue box, and tells him the whole story. The manager comes. He tells the whole story to the manager. The manager says to this guy, he says, did you get the plate number? He says, no, I didn't. He says, I didn't think to. So the manager says to him, he says, well, you have to go get the plate number. This guy can't walk, but now he's got to go get the plate number, so the manager tells him to go. So he has to take the scooter, go all the way back out, get the plate number, come all the way back, wait for the manager to come out again. He tells the manager the plate number. The manager calls the police. The police tell this guy, supposedly, that, well, they'll send someone when they get a chance because by the time they get there, this guy will probably be gone. So what's this guy supposed to do in the meantime? He can't get into his car to leave. He has the parking permit. The other guy doesn't. So the manager tells him, well, go out there and wait next to your car. So here this poor sap goes out there. He's sitting there waiting next to his car. It's freezing out there. Someone else comes over to him and says, hey, I need the cart. This guy can't stand. But that someone else is arguing now, I need that cart. So he tells him what's going on. He says, well, I don't care. He says, I need the cart to go in and go shopping. So this guy's stuck sitting on his open trunk. He said he was stuck there for about a half hour. Someone finally came. He says to the guy, he says, why'd you park there? He says, it doesn't look like it affects you. Why you parked there? He says, I can't get into my car. Well, he says, that's tough luck. He says, I had to go in, I had to get something, da-da-da-da-da. He's telling him the whole story. He says, but you're not supposed to park there. And the guy pleasantly tells him to go F himself. Police never showed up. Now, you could bet your bottom dollar again. If this was somebody else, the police would have been there, a whole thing would have been made. They would have wrote it up in the newspapers. But because it was a disabled guy sitting there waiting almost an hour after he got done shopping to go out to get home, nobody cared. Police never showed up. And you can't say that wasn't discrimination against a disabled person between the guy in the car, the manager in the store, and the police. And nobody cares. It was just done. But now you have someplace to complain. You complain. You call. You file a complaint with the ADA. You file a complaint anytime something like that happens to you. You file a complaint. All you have to do is go to ada.gov. It's www.ada.gov/filing_complaint.htm. File your complaint with the ADA. Name the store. Put the license plate on it. Put down what police station it was that you called. Put down the name of the cop that you spoke to. It's time that the disabled people stand up for their rights too. That's all I'm trying to say. Enough is enough. People just park in the corners when those little curves on the corners for the disabled people, and not just for the disabled people, but mothers with baby carriages to get up on the curb. People just park there. They don't care. It's like you don't exist. What kills me even more is when I hear a parent, and I've had it happen to me. And it kills me. It irks me. I've had a parent tell the child would ask the mother, how come he doesn't have two legs? And the parent, gives the child a look like, don't look at him. Don't look at him. Look over here. Instead of saying, well, he had an accident, or the child's young, he has a boo-boo, or whatever. It's like you did something wrong by looking at that person with no leg, and don't talk to him. Stand over here. Don't get near him. You might catch it. So yeah, let's just scare the hell out of the kids. We have to stand up for our rights and start making complaints. I don't like to be a complainer. Honestly, I don't. But I don't want to be someone that gets walked on at every time they turn around. And I don't want to see my friends. You got people that have heart conditions, and you get people like Oscar saying, they don't look like anything's wrong with him. Why does he got a handicap placard? Because the guy has a heart condition. Or the person that has asthma that can't walk that far. Or what is he going shopping for? Well, are you going to deliver the food to his house? Are you going to go shopping for him? Yeah, he can pay me. What, did he get asthma just so he can get out of going shopping? He has to go shopping even though he has asthma. Even though he has neuropathy. Even though he has COPD. Even though she has bad hips or bad knees. Even though she has fibromyalgia. People have to still be able to take care of themselves. My friends, don't let anybody stop you. And anyone that gets in your way, complain. Don't feel like, I shouldn't complain, because you have every right to. You have every right to. You have every right to be in public. You have every right to go to restaurants. You have every right to go to a store. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't. Don't ever let anyone feel like you shouldn't be there. We're going to keep watch on this. If you know places that aren't handicap accessible, let us know, because we're going to start putting them out there to people. We'll list them on the website. We'll put them out here on the podcast. We'll let other people know. Maybe we have to start shaming people into doing what's right. Anyhow, well, have a good weekend. Relax. I know I'm gonna. And remember this. Things can always be worse. Right now, there's somebody that wants to be exactly where you're at. So things can always be worse. All right, my friends, I shall talk to you the early part of next week. Stay strong, be happy. And please leave us a message below and let us know what you think about the podcast today. And if you'd like, you can send me an email at admin@famousapple.com. That's ADMIN @famousapple.com. Okay? Have a great weekend, my friends. I'll talk to you soon. This is Jimmy Apple.
Thanks for listening to An Apple a Day with Jimmy Apple, your gateway to a happy, healthy life. Join our community at www.famousapple.com. See you next time.